Hello, and welcome to the Life Burst Podcast. I know. Like, eventually my hello is just going to be the longest, right? It's just going to be like, hello, selectors.
Dude, we're already getting really close to that. Welcome back to the Life Burst Podcast, a Wixoss podcast, where we talk about all the Wixoss things.
And we got a show for you, because we're going to talk about a year.
A year in review. It's the Wixoss anniversary.
A year of review. Hey, before we go into it, though, we have to do the two questions. The first one is the comment of the week. Now that we're all back, it's me, you. We don't have any more guests this time around. We did a lot of guests. The comment of the week is going to be from Tamanon, who said to Anthony, who was our guest last week, that it was really refreshing to see someone really cracking the meta and getting a really top result in the ceremony, using a deck they like, in a center they like, in a play style they like, over, trying to break the meta, which I think is cool. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think we've said this on the podcast before, that, it's cool to play, viable decks and optimal decks, and, if you want to be super competitive, then those are pretty good options, just numbers-wise, but, you should also just play whatever you want. Play what makes you happy. That's why I play Ancient Surprise and Ought, and to be honest, that was the best ceremony that was my best performance when I played them. I do think that it makes a huge difference when you just, have fun with the game.
Yeah, it seems like overall people liked the last two podcasts where we had Autumn also as a guest, who hilariously was talking about this upcoming ceremony. We recorded it and put it out after the ceremony, where she got 5th place.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see her pre-ceremony mindset being like, this is how I think I'm gonna make it work. But yeah, no, a lot of people talked about the creativity of those two deck designers in general, and appreciated them having
great.
on the podcast.
They're great.
So as Wixoss week goes, how's your Wixoss week been?
It's actually been kind of busy. We have been picking up a mutual friend to come with us to play over at some of our locals. Because, you guys know that we have, multiple locals that we'll go out and travel to, so we can get, more than just, a game or two in a month.
Yeah.
So we took her out to 2 of our local game stores to play, and that's been really fun.
Yeah, she seems to be enjoing the game. It's our little community in Atlanta is tight, but starting to grow a little,
which we really like to see. Those were fine. I think I got 2nd in both of those.
Yep, with the umer deck.
Yeah, with the umer deck. That's what I was playing.
I didn't do super great with my atomic deck. I did okay. I'm gonna swap out of atomic. Atomic's fine. It's a good deck. It's probably an S tier deck. I'm not saying that it's any bad. It's just I again, every time it's like, this is like the vicious cycle with me and Anthony, right? I'm having trouble with this brew. I'm gonna go do something more competitive, and then Anthony is like, I did it. I made this crazy spicy combo work, and I'm like, I'm back in. I'm playing Bang now. It's
very inspirational.
Yeah. So I'm gonna see Bang 2.0 is coming out. So that's where all my energy has been really going, and I've been making the decks for next season. We're gonna be talking about. I'm gonna have probably a couple guest speakers talk about some of the deck lists as well. So that'll be coming up, because remember, we've got the new set coming out in December 16th, I think is the thing.
Whatever you say.
That weekish. Yeah. Facebook.
I usually don't realize it until the week of. And then I'm like, "Oh, we're going to be getting some new cards, opening up a box, that sort of thing." Yeah.
Christmas box this time.
Ooh. Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. I love Christmas. I love it. We've still been tweaking the umer deck for me. There's little things that we've been tweaking about it. I think it's going in a good direction. I do like the first kind of version of it that we played with.
Yeah.
The second version of it is still pretty good. So, but I think that there might be a couple cards coming out in the new set that may make a difference, which we'll get into once they come out.
Yeah. But so let's talk about what our topic was for this one, which is it's the Wixoss anniversary. So
yeah, a year in review.
I feel like that's so, I don't know. like isn't that from like the newscasts and like
A year in review?
Yeah, like ABC or something, and they're like it's like an olden time, like a year in review.
I guess so, but that kind of is it.
I know, it is 1 year in review. So Wixoss came out about a year ago.
For the English version. We're
yeah,
only talking about Diva English.
I think it's November 10th-ish or something like that it
Yeah.
came out a year ago. So we're a little late on the podcast and doing like, hey, here's 1 year anniversary, but
Yeah.
you know, only by a couple days. It's been cool. The fact that we'll talk about the future a little bit before we talk about the year in review, which is that it looks like Wixoss is still going to continue to support NA, which is very good.
A what?
NA, North America.
Oh, okay.
And we've got a couple sets coming out, at least that they've announced, right? So we know for sure that they're continuing to support us with Welcome Back Selector, and you'd assume if they're doing Welcome Back Selector, which has Tama and all of these other, they're probably going to do a full year of it, which I think goes up till set 10.
Ooh.
So we should still be good for at least another year of Wixoss, I think.
Hopefully we can eventually catch up to the Japanese meta.
I don't think we'll ever catch up, though.
There's always going to be some sort of delay because of translation,
but they release, so they seem to release at the same time they release our set. Like a month later, they release a Japanese set, and they keep doing that. So we haven't caught up.
Okay, never mind. That was. I thought we were eventually going to be only like 1 or 2 sets behind, but I guess not.
I'd love that. It would
be cool. I'd
but,
really like to be up to the cutting edge and not always behind.
But it would be a little strange because they would have to put out like 6 sets. They'd have to put out like 12 sets in 1 year, and that's an insane amount.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
To catch us up while keeping up their side of the world. But anyways, we've got a year. I know people are always a little worried with these smaller card games as to whether or not we're going to like lose.
Will it fizzle out?
Yeah, and that's like everyone's biggest worry. But I think I'm here to say, guys, I don't think that's a worry. I think you're good. Your game's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
for
I think
at least 1 more year.
At least 1 more year, I think we're gonna be okay.
And you and I have always been like, all right, well, if Wixoss dies, like we had a great year.
Yeah, we had a good time. We still have the cards. We'll still play. But I guess that's the end. Wait, do you think though that do you think that maybe we'll get another season of the Diva anime?
Maybe with the new thing that's coming out in Japan with oh god, I can't. It's like a Rizona, so it's Desarona. I can't remember how to pronounce it. It's supposed to be like dissonance. And it's the plot of the Japanese
the flavor
sets that
of the
are coming
card
out
game
right now are that Tama's back but can't find Rue. Because she's, I don't know, somewhere. I don't know. This is somewhere in the future of the universe. So she gets really upset, and because of that, the Wixoss land is starting to get dark.
Oh yeah, they did put out like a trailer for that set, which is really cool.
This is Halloween, which it makes me excited.
Yeah,
like we gotta get there. But maybe because of that, we might see some kind of crossover.
Because isn't it like every like 2 years they come out with a new like season-ish?
Yeah, and we're about that 2-year mark. So we'll see if something comes out or not. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I hope so too, because I don't know, this is one of the rare ones that I would like to have an anime with my card game.
Yeah.
Because they put so much thought into this that I feel like you actually are getting more out of one or the other if you have both.
Yeah, I agree. But so yeah, that's sort of the future of the Japanese sets. We're also going to get some rarity shifts in the next upcoming year.
Ooh.
I don't know. Look, I'm not the expert on this. You guys can go to the Card Games Discord if you want to ask, and the Wixoss Newbies channel for more information on this. But they are changing some of the rarities, but the overall thought is that, and we don't have this 100% down pat, so this is new information, is that it's basically better for you, right? For people who really, really want the super rares, right? it's still just as difficult to get those super rares, but there's more super rare options for them, so cool. For people who are more like you and I, which are more casual about rarity, it ends up being positive for us because, one, more lottery tickets is actually pretty okay for us. And two, they're downshifting some of the shiny cards, so we have a higher chance of getting some of the cooler shiny cards that you know, you just occasionally throw in as a one of or two of in your deck if you like to bling it.
Yeah. Honestly, as like you said, as a person that like casually likes to bling, I'm very much in the camp of if I open it or if I win it, that's super cool. I'll probably play it. But the likelihood that I'm going to go out of my way to buy it or trade for it is pretty low unless it's something like, you know, Umer or Ancient Surprise as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be something I really, really like. Like, I wouldn't do this for Madoka.
Yeah, I mean, shout outs
like
to the
Sangha.
Shout outs to the person who bought my top 32 Osagetsun that I put on TCG Player.
Yeah.
Guys, just so you guys know, and this is like a weird little pitch. You know, we do have a TCG shop, and if you guys on TCG Player, if you guys buy stuff for it, it directly feeds back into us just buying more cards and testing decks out for you guys and putting the deck lists up.
Yeah.
So shout outs to the person who bought the Osagetsun.
Yes, thank you. So that all said, kind of looking towards the future, it's been a long year.
It has been a very good year.
A lot has happened. So starting out with set 0, what an intro to a game, because those decks, so weird.
They were wacky.
They were so weird.
And it really felt like working with incomplete pieces, which is just strange to me. It's like I've never... Like, it's coming from my Magic the Gathering background, there's never been a moment where I've been like, oh yeah, I don't have all the pieces here. Like, the only thing I can think of is sometimes my draft decks don't get there. But that's so rare in Magic nowadays, too, that your set draft decks, you're missing, you only have 18 cards and you're missing the last 4 or something.
Yeah.
Because the game is so well designed at that point for draft that you basically, the fillers will always work for you. With set 0/0, there really was just a lot of missing pieces. I mean, think about our mono red deck that you took to take one of the first top placements in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Was one of the cards that we ran
that was Tall Will, wasn't it?
It was Tall Will.
Oh my goodness.
It was Tall Will.
Unthinkable nowadays.
And it was Tall Will. Not only was it Tall Will, but it was Tall Will with do you remember that Crimson Angel? I can't remember the actual name of it.
Tobiel?
No. Tobiel was definitely in it, but that's an armed one. No. The Crimson Angel, the one that is like power 3000 but gets like a small attack boost on its attack, and also its life burst was enter charge 1, draw 1.
Oh, yeah.
And we were
I'll
like,
look up the exact name. Go ahead.
we were like all over that card. We thought that card was like amazing. We thought it was the best red card that you could be playing at level 1 because like because one, it attacked really well and stats mattered a lot back then. And 2, its life burst was an enter charge in a deck that really doesn't have very much ways to get enter, and your best card in the deck was Hera, you know, so you needed that little bit of enter, especially with Shub being the top end, because Shub was like, what was it? You could give it Double Crush for 3 red enter.
Yeah, that's right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we don't even see any of those cards. Like, we were talking the other day and Tobiel came up and we were like, well, that's a blast from the past. I don't think I've seen that card in a deck since like, I don't know.
Yeah, we were literally looking, we were like
8 months ago.
We were looking at the White Hope deck list that's going to be coming out soon for an intro level deck. And there's a card in it that asks that you have armed Signy in your deck. And we were like, what are good armed Signy? I know Ramel right off the top of my head. And I know there's some in black red. But are there any good like white ones? And one of the first ones that popped up was Tobiel. And we were like, wait, that's an armed?
Yeah.
Wait, Tobiel still exists?
Yep. I'm trying to look up that one that you were talking about. It was a level 3?
It was a level 1.
Oh, it was a level 1. Okay. Hold on. We're looking stuff up on... There is an app for Wixoss. It's like Wixoss.eu.
That's Eris.
Eris?
Eris Crimson Angel.
Oh, yeah. Now I recognize the art.
When it attacks, target red Signy on your field gets plus 2,000 power. Spicy tech, guys.
It kind of is, though. I still don't think it's terrible.
I mean, yeah. I think I'd rather have it on the beginning of the attack phase than when it attacks.
Draw a card and enter charge 1. Huh.
Yeah, like we were playing like just a bunch of cards like that, right?
That's what we had.
Because that's what we had, yeah. And we were playing like, I remember we were playing the battle beats and spells.
Oh my god, the spells in set 0 are laughable.
Yeah, there's only one good one, which is Polygenesis.
Polygenesis out of that one was good. I don't recall if Ninji Sanji got any spells.
They did, but it was like 5 enter.
Yeah, though anything that's more than 2 is too expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen a spell that costs more than 2 that's anything worth it.
I play a...
Polygenesis, though, is a good card, and I still think about putting that in decks today.
I play a Rise Rebirth in Madoka right now. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And that's 3 enter.
What does it do? What is it? Where's that from?
From set 4. You bounce a Signy back to the opponent's hand, and you draw... Or you take a card from your trash and put it into your hand. So it's basically like a draw 1 removal spell. It's not great. I'd rather pay 2 enter for it, but I don't have access to something like that right now in white,
that's
blue.
Crazy. Yeah, Battle Beat. What's the other one? There's a ton of them. All the Ancient Surprise ones are funny though because they have this like little cheerleader in the bottom corner of their art.
Yeah.
Like they have like a #1 fan. It's so fun.
Like Furin / Battle Beat, Blue Opener, Creation Tone, Darkness Eater.
Darkness Eater?
Yeah, that's the 5 enter one.
Oh, yeah. I saw the enter cost on that, and I was like, never, ever. Yeah, Furin / actually does still see some play today, even though it's expensive. A lot of people like it.
I guess In Wonderland is not actually a terrible
Let me see.
card. It's add target black Signy from your trash to your hand. If you have 3 more Simbaka Elrigs on your field, then you can add target white or black Signy from your trash to your hand. And then its life burst is target Signy on your opponent's field gets -8,000 till end of turn. And it's not upped, so it's probably it's always interesting.
How much is it though?
2 enter. So
that's not bad.
It's still probably overcosted by 1, but that life burst was pretty good. But we just didn't know it back then. That life burst is good. It's like, it's funny looking back at some cards and being like, that card was better. If I could redo playing set 0-1 and set 0-0, there's so many changes I would have made to the decks to be like, I was an idiot. This is a good card. Or I was an idiot. This is not how a deck's built.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at Furin / I know that this still gets played, but it costs 5 to bounce 1.
They're doing it for the life burst.
Sure, but...
Life burst bounce target Signy on your opponent's field. That's the reason. And then other than that, it's just white enter. You said that in like our 3rd podcast where you were like at worst it's just enter.
I know, and I said that about what did I say that about? Something.
I don't know, but you're not wrong. A lot of the times it is at worst.
Oh,
it's
I was
just
trying
enter.
to defend like Parthenon or something.
Oh yeah, but
it's that blue card that's got like a gigantic wall of text that's like if it attacks, flip it over, put something on it, take something off. If it stays flipped over for 2 turns, I think, then you can flip
it back.
And just like stop that.
Yeah, I think at best Parthenon is enter is actually the right way to phrase that. Yeah, like Parthenon, for example, was a card that we were trying to experiment with. I mean, I used to play a lot of Robin Hoods, right? Like, that was, like, my big thing in green. Was like, yeah, Robin Hood. I can get in 1 extra damage a turn. And I'll still stand by my choice there. Robin Hood is a really good control card. I remember defending it. Sure,
but it's only good if there's 1 of them in your deck.
Yeah, or, like, you're only getting 1 damage in a turn with it. That's it. But I still think it's a pretty good choice. Yeah, we that was before we really got into strike theory too. So we had no clue what the right amount of removal was in a deck. There was a very early on idea of like open lanes attack through. That was a very successful thing we did in America early on in this the set. Like set 1, we really solidified the idea of opening lanes attacking through. We didn't have any idea of what the correct number was, so it was mostly aggro decks back then.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that the card pool supported a whole lot of other strategies besides that at the time.
I think it did. I think there was one specific deck that was underutilized in set 1, right? If we're graduating from set 0 and we're going on to set 1's meta, I think there was one specific deck that did it really well, and that was Diagram. I think Diagram was underutilized.
I think you're probably right about that. I just didn't like playing that deck very much because I prefer my decks to have like more synergy and like a more focused approach of a win condition. So, I mean, I did end up playing that deck and it wasn't a bad deck. It did feel weird compared to the rest of the what was available though.
Well, yeah, and that was you on your sort of card game journey.
I was on my my arc, so to speak.
Which, by the way, congratulations on your 1-year anniversary of playing card games.
Oh yeah.
You've come really, really far from just starting completely new.
I mean, so have you. You've had a lot of like Magic stuff to back you up, but Wixoss is a different card game.
I think so. I think I've leveled up quite a bit as a card game player as well. Like I for example, we were talking yesterday about how I went I lost my first 2 rounds in that last ceremony, and then didn't let the pressure kill me, and then won 5 immediately afterwards.
Like 5 that's so insane.
Yeah. And like that pressure is real, and it's not something I remember early on talking about how my first ceremony I tanked it because I let the losses accumulate in my head. So yeah, I think so, and I think I'm a better deck builder than I've ever been in my life. I bet you if I were to go back to Magic for draft, I actually would be really solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting, right? Like back then, the only deck building constrictions that we basically put in our head was this idea of 16 level 1s, 8 level 2s, and 12 level 3s and 4 spells.
Yeah, we tried to nail down a curve early on.
Yeah, and that worked, but now the curve actually has shifted. It's not the same as it used to be.
Oh?
Like control decks end up being something closer to 16 level 1s, 6 level 2s, 12-ish level 3s, and like 6 spells.
6?
Yeah. And then,
coming from someone that's playing the Op V2 Ancient Surprise no spell deck build, I'm like, ugh, spells, gross.
yeah, I mean, I can see it. Like you've got your 4 random drains, and then 2 troubles or 2 other like removal spells.
Sure.
Like being choices, and if you want to count Anna Mirage in there, you sometimes get upwards to like quote unquote 8 spells. And then aggro decks, generally speaking, are now 18 level 1s, 10 level 2s, and then like 6 to 8 level 3s, and then the rest are spells /
Nobunaga's like Rise Signies. Yeah. Oh man. Well, what about moving on to some of the later decks that we've seen? The introduction of new centers really started shifting things up.
Yeah, I mean, it is also interesting because the filling out of the card pool, I think, is the silent hero of the control decks.
Yeah.
Like, early Wixoss was nothing but mid-range to a small extent and aggro to a large extent, right? We glossed over Card Jockey's dominance in
yeah, we did.
In the meta.
Well, that came into like set 2 to 3.
I mean, yeah, it was still good in set 1. I think everyone was on Hirana because that was the
Oh,
easier...
sorry. I'm not counting the first set at set 0. Yeah. That would be set 1. Yeah,
set
that's
1.
right.
I think later in the late of set 1, people really were settling on Card Jockey, and that stayed until like set 3.
Yeah, that's right.
The thing that really slowed Card Jockey's roll was Nova in set 3.
Yeah.
But set 2, we're starting to see control and mid range start to be like, well, now that we have a more card pool,
a little more
I mean,
fleshed
remember
out.
Bill won the second ceremony with
Madoka.
Madoka.
Yeah, that's right.
And Yeah, it's like it's blue's starting to fill out its card pool. And I think at that point you start seeing like, oh, things are getting a little better, right? And like you said, things also helped on the rig version of things. We got better general assists.
Yes.
Right? Like, I mean, we're not there yet in set 4 yet, but Machina is so obscenely efficient of an assist.
It is a very good assist.
Basically, your Machina goes, hey, if you want deck consistency, right? Because it brings a card back from the trash, and then brings a card back from the trash on its second end. If you want a little bit of defense, which is good for pretty much any deck, and you want ways to add damage to your deck, because again, it's a black assist, so you're adding in black's late game damage to whatever deck you're adding it to. You just end up with this obscenely efficient assist that just brings in, like, the Machina package just brings so much to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we're really, this is something that's happening right now as we're going into year 2, I think, is that year 1, I was obsessed with stat lines for
Explain what you mean by that.
Okay, so like I thought Baphomet was the best card that ever existed. I still think Baphomet's a very good card, but for a slightly different reason now. But like Typo, I thought was a really, really good card. I still think Typo is an okay card. But it's just like, I was like, yeah, 7,000 power, 5,000 power on these level 1s. This is the dream. This is where we're living.
Gotcha.
And what I'm realizing now is like level 1s are probably better if they're utility Signy. It's because you know what, like, here's
you're
the thing.
gonna draw them in the late game,
right? But also, like, if you open a lane with I don't know, a spell, right, and you have an open lane, that level 1 that you put down, it doesn't matter what text is on it.
Not really.
It deals the damage.
Yeah, for the first 1.5 turns, it doesn't really matter.
Right. So
because you're either defending with them or you're attacking with them, and that's it.
Right. So you want your level 1 to probably do something better than just have stats.
Yeah.
Especially because removal has gotten so efficient, you can never really guarantee that unless you make your deck work completely around the idea of trying to, like, stop something, you can't really guarantee it. Right? Like White Heaven's gonna come in and ruin your day anyways, and be like, I don't care what your stat line of your Signy is, it's in your hand now. So why not take advantage of that, right? Right? This is the rise of Haket, in my opinion. Haket is this like unassuming card that we've had since set 1? Set 2? I think set 2.
Yeah, we've had it for a really long time, and it's just now getting into its like stride.
It's like I want to throw in any, like I want to put blue in random decks to just be like, now I have a caught. And this goes to show again with the Machina, right? Like the Machina rebuys you a level 1, and like, what's a really great target to rebuy? Hakat is a really great target.
Yeah. That top deck fixing and or giving you a better chance to get a guard. It's pretty great.
And I mean, like, that's one of the reasons why I still like Baphomet, is because Baphomet mills you 3, right? So any deck that is like, yeah, I want to be milled, right? And you have reasons to want to be milled. Like the new Tama coming out soon will want you to have some amount of cards in your trash to trigger certain things. But I don't think, for example, cards like Typo are as good as they used to be, just because I'm like, stats matter less. I'd rather have text on the card.
Yep.
And so that's a whole thing that I think we've leveled up from.
I would much rather have Signies that do things than Signies that don't. Yeah.
And like even I'm like less.
The only like exception to that I can think of are cards like multicolors to a certain extent, but also like things like Akufuku and like Folklore. Things that are just like big and don't necessarily do anything, but have a fantastic life burst.
You hit the nail on the head.
Because that's still something that has text that does something.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head there. And I think part of my brain wants to fight back on that type of thing, and I want to be like, well, you can get relevant text on Signy now and also have a good life burst, right? Like, a good example might be Haniel, right? Haniel has a great life burst, and it also has a great ability on the text itself. So I think, as we move forward, you'll see the bar getting higher and higher for cards to be like vanilla but have a good life burst. I don't know if Akufuku or what do you call it? Akufuku or Folklore will ever not be relevant. Their life burst is so good.
Yeah, just like shutting everything down.
Right.
It only sucks when the timing is off.
I'd be mind blown if they put like an Akufuku text on something that also has good text on the text box.
That would be ridiculous. I think they know that. That's why they put it on Akufuku.
The closest we have is Trouble, which I think is underutilized in America. It's used a lot in Japan. It has the Folklore life burst, with the exception of you don't draw a card. But it is a relevant spell that it's 2 enter, draw 3 cards. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a world where you should be playing more Troubles, but is what it is. I think you're right about that. Like the bar for having a good life burst is much higher than it used to be. It's no longer draw a card and enter charge 1.
Yeah, that's a little depending on the deck that you're running, but there's so much better life bursts than that out there right now. I think people can be a lot more scrutinous with what they're looking for in their card texts nowadays, which is good. I recall actually a podcast that we did pretty much right at the beginning of not only the game, but like our podcast. And it was about us saying like, it's not worth it to play monocolor decks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and now there's choices. It wasn't at the time.
In our defense, at the time, it really wasn't.
The card pool
worth it.
was so small too.
It was super small, and the rigs that you had available to you were a little redundant. Mm-hmm. So it really wasn't worth it to run a monocolor. But now we're seeing a lot of monocolor white, monocolor blue. Not so much monocolor red anymore, which is a little interesting because there's a lot of support for monocolor red.
Right.
But
it's red splash.
It's like white, blue, and black have really strong monocolor presence right now in the meta.
Yeah, blue is interesting to me because I don't think mono blue is super, super strong, but you'll find that blue often is mostly a blue deck with a black splash or mostly a blue deck with a white splash. Now in the metas, but we're not too far away from the idea of mono blue being a thing. Mono black isn't a thing right now, just because I don't think it has the support. Mono white is absolutely a thing now, though, and like I've heard rumblings of people saying like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I don't test against mono white. I think that's super wrong. Like, yes, mono white is a little bit more RNG because their life bursts are super swingy, but life bursts have always been swingy and can always ruin your game.
Yep, that's part of it. That's why we say, may you always flip a life burst.
And that's another thing, too, is while we're talking about stuff in review, we have gotten so good at picking good life bursts now.
I'm just going to toot our own horn for like a second.
No, I just mean everything, right?
Yeah.
Like we's in the Wecross community, right? Can identify...
Oh, for sure.
Can identify a card and go, no, that's a crappy life burst, and then just move forward with our life.
Yeah.
Like, you did in Bible Big or whatever the spell that's coming out in
I think it's Get Big Bible.
Get Big Bible in the White Hope deck that's coming out. Mm-hmm. Like, you looked at it and you went like, oh, so it's Good Dig with a worse life burst.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like they split the ability of Good Dig for a lesser life burst. That's weird.
Yeah. It's like it's very watered down, and like so you're just immediately
cost
like
the same. Yeah. I don't know.
And it's like that, right? Like none of us are really like, we're tentative to play the discard a card, vanish a Signy, life burst. We're all over the pay 1 to vanish a Signy. Mm-hmm. We're a little more tentative on the pay 1 to vanish 8,000 or less. We're all over the vanish for free ones. Mm-hmm. And like we recognize that the draw 2 ones, draw 3 ones, because there's going to be draw 3 ones coming out soon, are good, but only if the meta is discard heavy. And then like any of the enter charge ones, we're like, nope, we're good.
No, thank you. The way that we've been scrutinizing our decks has definitely changed, and yeah, that has a lot to do with the card pool that's available to us and the combinations of texts that you can get on a card, as in the card text itself plus a life burst. But I also think it's just because we've changed as players too.
Yeah, we've just streamlined it.
Yeah, like I wouldn't actually call myself an aggro player anymore. I know, the drama.
Shock.
Shocker.
1 year later.
But yeah, like a year later, I don't think I would actually go for an aggro deck anymore. Not because it's not relevant, because I think it always will be, but because just as a player, I've really come into my own for like midrange. Yeah. So a lot of the aggro life bursts just don't appeal to me anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's cool too. Like, we wanted to talk about how the card game has changed, but I think that the players have changed as well significantly. Yeah. Like, I've seen differences in just like our locals, like what they prefer to play. I know that everybody was hard on the Dr. Tamago train for a while, including you. Yeah, like, it was very much a lot of like Madoka and Dr. Tamago in multicolored decks for a while, and I was very much in the like Harana band camp, so to speak. So I think it's cool that we're seeing players evolve as well in terms of what they prefer to play.
Yeah, I think that is also, for our locals specifically, has to do with the fact that once a month, right, we don't have, our local scene shifts from store to store, but we don't have a store that we do for one of our
we don't have a set store.
So we go to a pub to like just eat, drink, and be merry.
Because we are all of drinking age, okay? And, like, we really are.
And one of the things that we do is Tiffany and I, we bring our proxy decks of all of basically the entire gauntlet that you can play in the meta, plus some wacky ones.
And people bring theirs as well, because there's so much cards now, like, we can't think of everything. So everybody just brings either the deck that they're testing or a couple of their own proxy decks, and we just, like, smash them.
Right, and we just swap them around. So a lot of people in our locals are pretty used to just playing a variety of different decks. Yeah. So they can get a feel of, like, maybe this is what I want to invest in for the next one. Maybe this is something I like.
Or, like, this is working, this is not working.
What's interesting is our players are all pretty versatile in what they can play.
Yeah, they are.
So it's not surprising when someone's playing an aggro deck and then suddenly playing a tempo deck on the next set, and then is playing a control deck, and then is back to aggro.
Yeah.
Because they just we play a variety of things, and we experiment, which is something I think is really, really important if anyone has not done that. You're saying it was important to you in your journey.
Yeah, because, I was very much like red aggro only, and then I went to Card Jockey, which is still technically an aggro deck.
Yeah, but it has like a combo flair.
Yeah, but it had a combo flair, and it was also, again, one of those very synergistic decks, which I prefer. And then I was like getting stagnant as a player, which we've made podcasts about this before, so if you want to check those out, you can. And then I was just like, I need to do something wildly different to broaden my horizons. So then I played the Diagram Team deck, which helped open my eyes to, midrange actually might suit me a little better.
Yeah.
Or it slows me down and makes me think more.
And like, I've always been a slightly more aggressive player. Like, I know how to pull back on the brakes and ease up on my acceleration and play a control deck, right? These are the I can play any type of deck you give me, but my inclinations will always be slightly more aggressive. Which means that, like, for example, I was one of the only people actively in Atomic turn one using my PA and discarding cards to open a lane to save my my Machina for later. And people were like, that seems aggressive. And like, I was like, yeah, but it's the right move for this moment. But also I like that kind of stuff, right? So I'll always lean a little bit more aggressive. And I've learned in Wixoss, one of the things that I've leveled up over this last year is that sometimes you play defensive to be aggressive in Wixoss, which is a strange notion. That like Madoka Clap is not an aggressive assist in the slightest.
No.
But it buys you a turn, and in that turn, that means that you can now have 4 more attacks. So it's weird that it enables aggression.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Is that it's a defensive card that enables aggression.
Yeah.
That's pretty smart.
Wixoss is like that. Like, that's something strange about this game that the other games don't have. Is that even when you're playing defensive, you're still proactive in your defensiveness.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's something we've learned, right? Like, in Nova, I was not proactive at all. I took 5th place in the ceremony, and I was not... I was very much not aggressive. I was like, I'll win on turn 12.
I'll win when I win.
Yeah.
Not if, but when.
The funny thing is, and shout outs to our local Anthony, we always joke about how we're the fastest deck in the meta, Nova.
Oh my god, you Nova boys.
No, because we play so quickly and so efficiently with our Nova because we know how long it takes to win with it.
Yeah.
We often end up being the first decks to finish.
I know,
with
your Nova matchups are literally speed chess. It's like crazy to watch you guys because you both know exactly what your decks are supposed to do, but because you're doing a mirror matchup, it's like you also already know what the opponent's going to do. That's why I love mirror matchups. I love mirror matchups because it's kind of like I talked about this before with my Ancient Surprise mirror. You already know what's going on. You don't need to explain anything. You just get to play.
Yeah, you're like,
and then it's just like, who really is the better player?
You go like double Lancelot, and they're not like, how is it double Lancelot? You're like Worlds Reverse Lancelot. You just be like, you just double Lancelot.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So it is interesting that this is something that we're learning right now in Wixoss, and I think I look forward honestly to the next year of Wixoss where we're going to learn more stuff about like how the game has evolved, and we're going to look back at certain things. Like, one of the interesting things is very recently I have actually finally figured out what the correct number is for color splashing in Wixoss. And it took me a year to get here.
Do you want to reveal that, or do you want to?
I don't mind. So it's about if you're playing a 2-color deck, right? And that was maybe the trick, is I needed to play more Dream Teams so I could start figuring out the difference between 2-color decks, 1-color decks, and 3-color decks. Hey, spoilers, 1-color decks, you're good. You don't need to worry about this.
I think if you look at the ceremony list, you'll probably have figured that out.
1-color deck, hey, turns out you
have the card pool for it. Yeah.
Well, also, you're playing 1 color, so I don't think you have to worry about getting color screwed.
Yeah.
Don't add more than 4 servants into your deck. It's 1, not a great idea, and 2, it's illegal.
In case you didn't know.
2-color decks, where you really want to be is something like 22-16, right? Like, you want to have 22 or 24 really of your main color.
Of your main color, yeah.
And then 16 of your secondary color. You'll notice I'm talking, that's 40 cards there, so that's not the numbers that you have to hit, but you're trying to get something like that, right?
Yeah.
Realistically, 22-12 is where you want to be at with it. If it's a real second color, like you're both running this color and this color, right? Then you want to get closer to 22-16. But if you're going to do a splash of your 3rd color, and that's in Wixoss, I think you can do a splash if you want to be a full 3-color deck where you're using all of your colors. You're a crazy person, but you could do it. It just involves a lot of multicolored shenanigans.
Looking at you, B2 Ancient Surprise.
Yeah,
there are still some rainbow decks out there.
Yeah. Senga in the next set's coming out is going to be a rainbow deck. So if you want to do a 2-color or 3-color deck and you're only splashing the last one, let's say you're splashing for Madoka Clap or an MC Lion Disrespect, then what you want to do is something closer to a 22-12-6 split, right? 6 being your other ones. That's 6, by the way, and I know these numbers, by the way, that I'm saying might add up to 40, and you're like, how are you fitting guards in there? Multicolors are the trick here. Your level 1 multicolors are count as both, right? And if you wanted to do a full 3-color deck, the answer is 20-ish, 16-ish, 8-ish. And that's going to involve quite a bit of multicolors to pull that off.
Speaking of colors, not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you have something else?
No, it just took me a year of Wixossing to figure that out. Like, I am literally and what's interesting too is in the earlier sets I was sort of beholden a lot to the Japanese deck lists and sort of copying the best tech I could find off of them. I look at the Japanese deck list as a starting off point now, and I sometimes I'm like, nope, that's wrong, and just adjust to our American meta.
Does not work for me.
Yeah, our American meta is different.
It is.
We have learned things are better in retrospect, so we don't need to waste time with figuring out if a tech is good or not. Because we have at least a year of foresight from Japanese metas, right?
Yeah. That does bring me to my 2 points.
So yeah, what's your 2 points?
Well, speaking of color, there's 2 things I want to talk about. Green in Wixoss. And
Osagetsu's still the best green card.
And DXM. So with green, why has it been consistently ignored? There is just not nearly enough support for green as a whole, and it makes me sad. I want big green energy. I want more support for things like green defense and Lancer. I think that if we had those things be more supported for green in the meta, green would become actually viable. Like even like I'm talking about like mono green and major green with secondary splash decks, because those are incredibly hard to tune.
Yeah.
Like it just makes me sad. I want my green decks, and I want them now.
I think we are underutilizing. This is me getting a little bit on the soapbox here. I think we are underutilizing green a little bit. Green is, we keep making the joke about how bad green is. But green has some edges that other decks might not. Like, for example, you might say, oh, that H2O is really hard to get rid of efficiently. I guess the best I can do is freeze it and ignore it, or assassin through it.
Yeah.
And not realizing that green easily boasts having 13Ks with Lancer.
Yeah.
That's the best way to get rid of Exia as well. Lancer it away, and then when you attack with your Osagetsu on the next turn, you can open the lane. Like, green has its edges as to being good. The problem with green is not that it has bad centers. It does not have bad centers. Bang is a great center. Ott is a great center. The new Bang that's coming out is also going to be a very good center.
Yeah.
Like, it has reasons to run it as a center.
We had a really strong VJ Wolf like 2 or 3 ceremonies ago.
Yeah. And the reason green's not great right now at this point, year 1 backwards, is that there's about 16 cards, and I'm counting multiples of 4s here. So there's about 16 cards that you would look at, maybe 20-ish if you really stretch it, 18-ish, that you go, this is a core of a green deck. The problem is, remember I told you with the color thing, you need that number to be about 22 to 24. So we're just off by a little bit. And that's going to get remedied a little bit in the next set. There's 2 cards, level 2s, in green that are very good and should be played. So I think you're going to start seeing green potentially becoming a thing in the next couple sets. There's no assist lines that I would want to run as green right now to add green to my deck. But that changes in set 7. So you're looking forward.
Yeah.
Green has a shot at being good again.
Yeah, just looking in the past, I'm kind of like, why? Like, it's been, how many sets are we on now? 6?
Yeah, we're going on to set 6.
We're going on to set 6, and still. And yet, meanwhile, white and blue, and black now, have just been like...
And red, riding on its old coattails.
Yeah, bursting at the seams in terms of what they have available to them and how they can be good. I feel ignored. I feel ignored.
I think year 2 is going to be a little cold towards green, but year 3 of Wixoss is going to be very exciting for green. But it also is going to matter for people willing to take difficult decks and make them work that are green. Me. I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing it for Bang.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
And that one guy who bought our Osagetsu in top 32,
it's probably gonna do it. Yeah. So the other thing I want to talk about is DXM. Yeah. You probably got this from listening to some of our past podcasts. I was absolutely terrified at DXM coming out and being introduced into the format, because I believe what the trend that we looked at for the Japanese meta is that DXM pretty much took over the entire meta for like several sets in a row.
Domination.
And that is the last thing I wanted to see for Wixoss. And honestly, I am very pleasantly surprised. I am so glad that it did not do what I thought it was going to do. I like that people are breaking apart that team and making dream teams with them. I think Deus Center is actually pretty great. Souls still aggravate me, but so much. But at the same
teaching
time,
new players is so much harder with Souls in the format.
I know.
But...
It's just like, ugh. But I'm really happy to see that it's not the dominant team deck, and it's also not the dominant dream team deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's still definitely a dominant deck. I'm not
present.
not going to undersell it, but
it's present. But I'm not saying that it's not like a legendary Pokemon team.
Right.
It's not like the only thing we see in this format.
There's saturation, but not oversaturation.
Exactly.
Is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. It just added a little bit more variety.
Yeah, and the thing is, and this comes with, I think, look, I'm gonna pat us on the back here, Team America over here. I think Americans, generally speaking, are really good at banding together and getting the nuts and bolts down of being like, how do we make this work, right? And they don't look at flair. We're very unflaired people. We're like, our favorite card is Lancelot because it does a job, you know? Like,
I guess you would say we're kind of like utilitarian, tactician-y.
We got our jeans on. You know what? We're wearing these jeans.
Oh my God.
3 times a week because they work.
All right, I feel like we're getting into blanket statements now.
I'm saying that I can say I'm really proud of the American meta for just basically being like, hey, are there flaws? Can we exploit these flaws? Mm-hmm. And you've got some really creative deck builders like Anthony or Autumn who can look at the flaws and change them, right? Autumn just literally looked at her X flaws and was like, let me get rid of them. She
looked at X and was like, I'm not going to play it that way.
Yeah, she changed the deck to work with the flaws or just minimized them. Mm-hmm. Whereas Anthony looked at the flaws in the meta and just cracked it right open.
Yeah.
And like we have some creative deck builders who are managing to do that, but overall what people do is they look at a deck and they go, what's its strengths, what's its weaknesses, how do we maximize these things? And one of the reasons why X and Deus just didn't dominate is people successfully noted what their weaknesses are. Mm-hmm. Deus is actually not that great against discard decks. Mm-hmm. Like it struggles a little bit against discard. It's not the worst, right? It can
but it does
throws a wrench in its plans.
It's a bit of a it's not an Achilles heel, but it throws a wrench in the deck.
And X, it was like if we kind of enter deprive them a little bit, because they don't have such an extreme amount of enter coming their way. And if we put a clock on them, and if we put discard as one of the things that throwing in, like that's enough wrenches that it's just like it's hard for X to deal with, right? Mm-hmm. And like X doesn't have good card quality. It just doesn't. It's fast.
Yeah.
And so American meta was able to use the foresight that we had from our year of Japan ahead of us and just be like, not waste any time whatsoever and just immediately start applying patches.
I guess that is a major benefit. I know that I complained a little bit earlier in the podcast about how I wanted to be like a little bit more on the forefront of when things are coming out, but I do think that has benefited us a lot in North America to look at what Big Brother's doing and then learn from Big Brother's mistakes or experiences and then kind of pave our own way.
Especially because the Japanese meta loves to try out wacky, crazy things.
Not that we don't, but...
Right, but we're over here in America being like, that seems wacky and crazy. Let's try a toned down version of that, right? Or something. So, I mean, it helps that we can see tech being used, utilized, and either fails or succeeds. And then on our end, be like, let's adjust.
Yeah. In the Americas.
But that's our year in review, I think, right?
That's our year in review. It's honestly been such a wild ride, but it's been a really good ride.
I'm so excited for the year 2.
Yeah, I'm really excited for 2023, for sure. There's going to be so much stuff coming out. It's going to be kind of a whole new flavor of the game. It might go a little darker, which I appreciate as somebody that also appreciated the first 2 series of the original Wixoss. And with all the new, like, lyrics that are coming out, you know that only adds more more possibilities and variety into the format, which I genuinely like.
And what a fitting way to go into year 2 is to be like, hey, all the people who used to who liked the old series, you should think about playing because your old friends are back.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, isn't it called Welcome Back Selector?
Yeah.
So, welcome back, selectors. All right. That is our podcast for today. We hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment in the comment section down below. How was your Wixoss year? What were your favorite parts? Maybe what were your not so favorite parts? And let's talk about it together. In the meantime, may you always flip a life burst, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you next year.